Hey, it's Matt from Rough House Studios, and welcome to Infused Eats. Today's recipe is chocolate peanut butter crispy cereal bars infused with cannabis. This recipe's title is a mouthful, but it's actually really simple and only requires 5 ingredients. That's cannabis, unsalted butter, marshmallows, peanut butter cereal, and chocolate. And for the exact quantities and for the full written recipe, please sign up at infusedeats.com, our interactive cannabis-infused recipes website. Like most other cannabis-infused recipes, we will begin by processing and decarboxylating the cannabis. This will activate the cannabinoids such as THC in the plant and give us the medicated feelings that we're all probably looking for here. So first, weigh out and grind the cannabis into a coarse meal consistency. Use a grinder if you have one. You can also chop it with a knife. Remove any large stems and seeds, of course. And I find using a piece of parchment paper creased with a fold down the center on a baking sheet is perfect for decarbing. Set your oven to 225 degrees Fahrenheit and a timer for 1 hour and 50 minutes. Now you could use the more standard 220 degrees for 2 hours, but my oven has a minimum of 225 degrees, so I just offset the time a little bit. You could also even use higher temperatures for a shorter time, but this is a kind of a long and low method of decarbing, and it has less chance of error. Now, if you really know what you're doing, you can use your eyes and your nose and just tell when it's activated by the smell. When it's finished, it will be noticeably darker and browner, and you'll have a very pungent and aromatic aroma that will fill the entire house. Now, this recipe will not include any prolonged heat for cooking the cannabis, so we need to make sure that we fully activate the THC in this first and very important step. The next step is to clarify your butter, and you can do this in advance, or you can also do it as you're activating the cannabis. You could also skip this step if you really want to, but it will kind of mess up the recipe's quantities because you'll lose about 1/3 of the initial butter weight. So if you do decide to skip this step, you need to use 1/3 less butter than the recipe calls for. So first, cube your butter and put it into a medium saucepan over medium heat. And heat it until the white milk solids begin to separate from the oil and they float to the top, and it's a creamy white layer that you can carefully scoop out using a spoon. Now you can use this stuff for popcorn or something later, but I usually just discard it. And what we're doing is we're removing the water, and we're doing that by evaporation, and we're also removing the milk solids by separating them out. And so we can do this, and we're going to be left with all the oils and fat, and that'll help us make our can of butter more bioavailable, and also our cereal bars will be more shelf stable. You can also use a coffee filter to filter out the butter, but it can take a while. You have to be really patient and really careful because the oil is really hot. But once you have finished, your oil will be golden and clear, and you'll be almost perfect vehicle for our cannabinoids. Now we will combine the clarified butter and the activated cannabis in the top of a double boiler setup. Now, if you use the pre-creased piece of parchment paper that I mentioned in the decarboxylation step earlier in the video, you'll see now why that was helpful. It funnels easily, and you can brush off the remaining keef and trichromes that have fallen off in the heating process. Now, in this process, we're going to be infusing the activated cannabis into the clarified butter so that the saturated fats in the butter oil will acquire the THC and therefore facilitate the digestive system in transferring the cannabinoids into the bloodstream, where it will finally meet its destiny in the eagerly awaiting endocannabinoid system that our body depends on daily to regulate pain, hunger, sleep, and so many other natural human functions. This infusion can go in 20 or 30 minute increments, so check the water levels pretty often and stir the mixture in the double boiler. And you want to let it infuse for a minimum of 1 hour and a maximum of 3 hours. Give or take a little bit, kind of depending on your own preference and if you have the time to do it. Generally, the longer the better. Once the infusion is complete, the butter will be noticeably darker and green. And now we're going to filter it through several layers of cheesecloth, or like here, I'm using a fine mesh metal screen. And use some way to squeeze it, but squeeze out as much of the infused butter oil as possible, and the resulting can of butter that you have left will get you flying high as it is. But now we're going to go ahead and use this butter to make our crispy cereal bars. Now, before we move on to the next step, we need to separate and reserve back some of our canna butter. So we need to put 1 full tablespoon into our double boiler top bowl, which we've cleaned, and that's going to be for our chocolate later. And then a 2nd tablespoon we should be reserved back for buttering our 9x13 dish that we're going to use to form the bars in the last step. So you can go ahead and spread the butter evenly while it's still warm, and it'll be easier. And then set the pan aside, and we'll come back to that later. Then the remaining butter we're going to take and put into a large saucepan over a medium heat. And to this butter, we will add in all of the marshmallows. And we're going to keep that over a medium to low heat, and we're going to let that heat as long as needed for the marshmallows to fully melt. And you keep stirring them and flipping them over to help it melt quicker, and it'll fully incorporate finally, and the butter will no longer separate out from the marshmallow cream. Now this will take a little while, so just let it go slow. You don't want to overheat it, so just take the time that you need. And after a while, the mixture is going to start boiling, and when it's fully boiling, from that point, you're going to let it boil for another 2 to 3 minutes. You don't want to let it get too hot though, or your cereal bars will get really hard, and so hard they'll break your teeth when you cool them off. So don't let it get too hot. So after it starts boiling, about 2 or 3 more minutes. Now we're going to remove it from the heat, and then we're going to pour your cereal while it's still hot into the mixture. Now you're going to keep mixing this and keep mixing it until the cereal is all evenly and fully coated. Now transfer this into the pre-buttered 9x13 pan, and it will start to get stiff pretty quickly as it cools off, so keep moving and as you flatten the bars out evenly into the pan. Now take a big piece of wax paper or parchment paper and press the bars firmly and evenly into shape all across the pan. Even them out as best as you can with the palm of your hands, pressing them in as hard as you can without breaking your dish or your table. But then when you pull off the paper, your surface of the top of your cereal bar should be flat and smooth, similar to this. Now this next step is optional, but it's a good way to use the leftover butter, and of course chocolate and peanut butter complement very nicely, as everyone knows. So we're using a large candy bar here. We're going to break it into pieces and add it into the double boiler with our tablespoon of infused butter from previously. Now put a lid on it, and after about 5 minutes, it should be melted enough so that you can start mixing it. And you're going to mix that and whisk it until it's glossy. And then you can simply use a spoon or whatever you have to drizzle it back and forth across the top of your cereal bars. Now you could easily get creative with this step and make designs or a smooth, nice coating over the top of it, but I'll leave that up to you. For me, it's perfect just to let it melt down to the top, and it adds that nice, milky, sweet extra dose of THC to the mix, and who's going to complain about that? Now we need to let them cool off completely before you cut them into at least 12 pieces. Now, if you do this, you will get a much cleaner, sharp edge, but really, who can ever really wait for crispy cereal bars to cool off before you dig into them? So we'll forgive you if you do like I did and go ahead and cut them immediately. Now, these crispy cereal tarts are delicious while still a little warm, or they're perfect to wrap and keep right on the cabinet for 2 or 3 days, or you can keep them frozen for a couple of months. And don't be afraid to experiment around with the flavors. You could say, for instance, Fruity Pebbles with a white chocolate topping, or Golden Grahams with dark chocolate topping. The possibilities are literally endless there. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Infused Eats. If you did, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. And if you make these for yourself, please share your results on Instagram, and be sure to hashtag Rough House Studios and Infused Eats. And if you'd like to find the complete written recipe with exact quantities, all inside of an interactive cookbook of cannabis-infused recipes, then please subscribe to Infused Eats. It's really affordable and helps Rough House Studios bring better quality recipes and videos, and we really appreciate the support. Click the link on the screen or in the description if you're interested. Also, please subscribe to Rough House Studios for more cannabis culture videos made just for you. Thanks for watching.